Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to the IDC Alumni Talk number 36. Today we have with us a guest speaker, Shashwath Bolar, who is going to talk about telling stories with color, material and finish, and share with us the experiences that he had gained telling stories through these three very critical elements that make a product from the auto industry, because that's exceptionally where he has worked. And what I will do is I will request our Ari, batch of 93, who is also a known figure in this forum. He had delivered a talk about a month ago on the electric vehicle and its evolution. So it is only fitting to have someone like Ari to introduce our speaker today and also the topic. And over to Ari.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening, everyone. We are glad to have our guest speaker, Shashwath Bolar, who's a passionate automotive designer, graduated from Coventry University, UK. Shashwath has years of experience working with major global car manufacturers and in design studios across UK, Austria, and Japan. He has worked with the Indian automakers like Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland on their highly envisioned projects for production as well as auto expos. He has contributed a lot as a designer in various capacities for the upkeep and advancement of brands and their product lines. Shashwath is currently with Bajaj Auto as head of color, trim, and graphics, leading a team of talented designers and brings about meaningful CTG innovations. He is also a custom bike design to push the boundaries of design unobtrusively. One of his works is published in Auto Magazine's recent editions. Apart from business world, Shashwath is also an academic, a visiting faculty at NID Ahmedabad. Last week, he was teaching CMF to MD students over there. Shashwath is with us tonight to share his experiences of storytelling with colors, materials, and finishes in the automotive world. So let's join in and listen to him. Thank you all. Yeah, Shashwath.
Thank you very much, Ari, and thank you very much, Ravi, for this opportunity. Good evening, everyone, and hello to everyone. I'm Shashwath Bolar, and let's deep dive then. So the question is, what is CMF design? Most of you might be already aware of what CMF is. It's nothing but color, material, and finish. But there are a lot of such terms which exist in this realm, which is like CTG, CNGs, CNT, CMF, and this can be a bit confusing, but these are more or less the same thing. But in different industries, they are called in with different acronyms. Like for example, in the car industry, it's commonly known as color and trim or color and graphics. And in the motorcycle industry, it's typically known as CTG, that's color, trim, and graphics. And in the consumer electronic space, it's become very popular as CMF, which is color, material, finish, because the material and finish aspect is very, very critical, and their lead time is very, very short compared to other industries. So the question is, what is CMF and how can it help in designing a better product? The thing is, CMF is like intersection between the design team and the marketing team, because it takes care of strategy. Once you design an industrially made product, a CMF can help you tell multiple stories to, and address different kinds of audience and different kinds of geographies. So that's the strategic advantage of the CMF design approach. And, typically what used to happen is CMF designers would come in the last minute, just before the product was launched, and quickly make something, and then the product would hit the market. But we've seen with auto companies and many other companies, many other industries, that CMF design is brought in well at the strategy, well at the inception of the product, because CMF can then influence the exterior design, interior design, or even features. And me being an automotive designer, I have used TMF as a strategic tool right from the beginning in a lot of projects, and I've seen that benefiting big time. Be it ordering materials well before the deadlines, getting fresh materials, especially during auto expos. Planning is very much essential. But I would rather focus today's talk on the storytelling aspect, because that is the big view, the bird's eye view of what CMF is. It tells you bigger stories. And so I would like to take 3 examples from my experience. So I joined Tata Motors in late 2012. I was there for about 4.5 years. And when I joined Tata Motors, most of the commercial vehicles, they looked darker, or either they were white, or either brown in color, because the national permit color for trucks was brown. So I felt that there is an opportunity to make brighter and tell interesting color stories to the commercial vehicles. The reason being, 70% of the country is agrarian. And if you look at rural India, or if you look at the customers of commercial vehicles, they wear quite saturated colors, and quite bold colors, quite interesting colors, unlike the highly educated lot. So and at the same time in Tata Motors, we were looking at this tagline called Indian in essence and global in appeal. So that Indian in essence was a very big thing. So we are all looking for Indian stories, be it getting inspiration from Indian designers, or anyone with Indian origins going and expressing themselves globally. So we were constantly in the lookout for such things. And a lot of inspiration, honestly, for the commercial vehicles came from our own user research, not just from Google or Pinterest or things like that. But through our own research, we would take our cameras, sometimes along with marketing, we would go to different cities, towns, sabzi mandis, flower markets, and just keep taking pictures, talking to existing ACE users and things like that. So this project was for Tata ACE Mega, which came in the Indian Auto Expo 2016. And these are some of the initial concepts what we had done. You can look at turmeric, the inspiration for yellow, and then there was this brick color which is quite popular in India, granite, and the blue. So finally the blue got selected. And if you're going forward, even after I left Tata, for the Tata Intra, they decided to go ahead with that blue color. Similarly, for the Tata Ultra Sleeper, they wanted a premium color, because they were planning to sell in countries like Vietnam and other countries in Southeast Asia. They wanted a premium metallic color. So instead of doing a normal red, I decided to call this spicy red. But the inspiration came from chili markets in Pune, where chilies from all over India came, be it the Kashmiri Lal from Kashmir, the Biadgi chili from North Karnataka, from Andhra Pradesh, and it had such brilliant hues of reds and yellows and orange. And that was kind of the starting point. And after that, it's typical digital renders, working with multiple suppliers, getting the flakes right, basically keeping a red base and having a yellow and orange flakes, which would give that richness of red. Moving ahead, there's another project called the Tata Iris Ziva. Here it was a technology platform. They wanted to show the H2 fuel cell technology. So here again, the story was different. It was about like an electronic gadget. So I was looking into the, because the character of the vehicle is such that it's very cute and peppy. So wanted to have a nice color combination. And for the graphics, we had collaborated with Tata Elxsi, and they did a fantastic job. And again, we're looking at the molecular structure and things like that. You can see printed circuit board, tone-on-tone approach over there. And moving on to the ultra electric bus, this was one of my favorite projects, because this was a project which helped us launch the commercial vehicle DNA. We have been working for a couple of years. And this was the first product to have that DNA, which is having that Tata truss bar, the big chrome truss bar with a T logo, and also a chiseled smile. The idea being, we wanted a Tata vehicle to be recognized from a kilometer or two away on the highway. That was the whole idea. And one of the big inspiration came from this gaming CPU you see here on the left top. So basically it was like a black glossy box with the aluminum casing enclosing it. So it gave a interesting sense of protective gear, a protective look to it, and that's what we wanted to give it on a on a bus, so people feel protected sitting inside. And also, since it was an electric bus, we had an opportunity to come out with a new air intake grammar. If you look at the nostrils over here, very little nostril is for the air to come in to cool some of the electronic gadgets, because it didn't have a traditional radiator what most buses have. So that was one thing. And again, talking in terms of color boards or mood boards, we had three distinctive directions. One is for the exterior. We wanted to tell a certain story about the exterior. You can look at the color palette here. And for the passenger space, we wanted to make it look like a Zen space, as Pratap Bose called it. His idea was that, the Auto Expo is going to be crowded. People need a place to sit, so they can probably come inside and chill in a nice, calm and serene space, and like a modern cafe, with wooden flooring and contemporary materials and things like that. But at the same time, for the driver space, we thought we can't have that same approach, because a driver needs to look professional. We wanted to make it look techy. The color inspiration came from the Tron movies color palette, and high precision high precision equipment like DSLR and things like that. So it was quite a interesting color palette. These are CMF boards. So once the mood board is decided and fixed, we then start working with multiple suppliers like paint suppliers, carpet suppliers, fabric suppliers, and different material suppliers. So these are the actual pictures of the materials which were developed. And then the application through VRED, again here, it was not just me, it was me and a few more designers and modelers. We had designed the space digitally. We did all the ergonomic checks, and all the VRED renders were done as per the color scheme. Once this was done, it was a lot more easier for us to get it executed in the real world. Some work in progress pictures. This was probably the most fun part, because we had the samples, we had the palette, and a lot of hands-on experience. A lot of, like, for example, the seat came in late, so I was actually sketching the curves on the seat directly, and you can see the tailor standing next to me. So he stitched the fabric as per the design, and it was quite a enriching project. So this was the final picture of the exterior, which was launched in the Indian Auto Expo in Delhi in 2016. So on the right, you can see the interior pictures. So red was, the orange, the neon orange was used as the highlighter of the seat. And if you look at the bench, it was made out of steel with laser cut patterns. The idea being, we used steel because, we wanted to make it like a park bench, and also make it easy for, cleaners to clean the seat, because in public transport, having, a resin of fabric can be quite a challenge for cleaners. So, steel gives you this, powder coated steel gives you this great flexibility to, clean up. And since it was just, like a concept for a bus to travel between two metros, the maximum distance would be just 20 minutes. Travel time would be 20 minutes. So, to the front of the seat, it was for, anyone who's handicapped or old or who's pregnant. And the rear was where you can just rest yourself, which opened up a lot of legroom space and a lot of space for standing passengers. That was the idea. And we'd also used the jali pattern on these panels here and also on the seat to add that interest. Moving on to the other project, which was the Tata eVision Sedan. In 2015, Tata was planning to enter the electric vehicle passenger segment. And these were interesting times because, the sales in passenger vehicles wasn't great, but we were looking at the future, and we wanted to establish something really cool, something really unique and interesting. So by the time I reached the UK studio, the exterior design was already kicked in. It was already approved by the top management, and then they started building the clay model, 1:1 clay model. So I entered in that time. So I was working on design strategy, design details, and even CMF design. And out of the many concepts, directions, the thing which got selected, the theme which got selected was the vibrant boutique. The reason being, as I said before, it was the mantra which we were having inside the studio was Indian in essence, global in spirit. And so we wanted to showcase a new India. Instead of just following what Audi, BMW, Mercedes does, we wanted to have a different approach to luxury. We wanted, I was calling this term called alternate luxury. And and I wanted to look at Indian designers who are unapologetically Indian. They're so brave to put across what a new India means to them. And some of the designers were Manish Arora. You can see some of his work on the left, concept one. And Nipa Doshi, who's NID RCA designer, furniture designer working in London. And she had done some work for an Italian furniture maker called Moroso. And if you look at the colors, if you look at the patterns, they're so vibrant and so attractive and energetic. And this one was inspired by the peacock teal color, which is a combination of dark blue and green. And that's when the men's fashion was throwing up such colors. So I thought that was a great story to be told. And peacock being a national bird, probably the most attractive national bird anyone could imagine. So then we started developing this concept. Later on I worked with the Material Lab in London. So Material Lab is basically a showcase of about 180 British suppliers, showing which display different kinds of materials. So one could walk in there and collect samples and kind of build a physical material library. They also loan all these objects. So that was one resource I had, which was very, very helpful in kind of building actual physical samples. It helps you tell your story better to the top management when one could touch and feel materials and see paints and panels at the concept stage. So to cut a long story short, this color went on to to the E-Vision Sedan at the Geneva Motor Show in 2018. And I left Tata at 2000s in 2017. But what was nice is they carried forward the story even after I left. Other designers worked on it, and they used it on the Nexon EV, the Tigor EV, and it's one of the highest sold colors now. And as a designer, it feels amazing to have a certain kind of intention to bring in something, bring an original story, and end of the day, it's been well received by customers. So it feels great. Another thing I did was work on the patterns. We already had the Jali pattern, you might have been quite aware, which was inspired from Indian architecture, Mughal architecture, and things like that. So I wanted to do something different. Jali patterns were already done in previous Tata concepts. I wanted to bring in some new kinds of concepts, new kinds of patterns. So I looked into all the kinds of patterns at the Taj Mahal, and the patterns inspired from the peacock, the patterns you see on the T2 terminal in Mumbai, and the snake, and the right image what you see. And that was the final design which was chosen. I had called it sculpted petals because they kind of look like petals, and you have three shapes which come together. And I was just experimenting with different shapes and sizes and scale. And Pratap Bose came out with this word called tri-arrow, where you have three arrows coming together. So we kind of explored that, and this design went on the E-Vision Sedan. And again, to cut a long story short, after I left Tata Motors, this pattern is used extensively, and it is amazing to see how it has taken a life of itself, and it's gone on vehicle details, grill details, fabric design, interior architecture, gear knob design, and various ways. And I think this is an amazing example of how one could use patterns to enrich their brand. And it is possible only if the design team drives this, because as designers, it's our job to envision designs and patterns in multiple medium, in multiple places. So yeah. So finally, moving on to my personal project, which is a cafe racer based on a RX 135, Yamaha RX 135. Anyone who's grown up in India in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s know the impact of what a Yamaha RX had. And it really ruled the hearts of the Indian youth in these times. And I was very lucky to get a bike for myself. And I started my engineering at 18. And fast forward 20 years, I wanted to pay back, pay homage to this great iconic motorcycle. I wanted to design a very cool looking Yamaha RX cafe racer, but again with modern values. The keywords I wanted to use was neo retro. So I started by stripping down everything unnecessary from the bike, and I converted one of my bedrooms into a garage cum studio just for the bike, with all the sketches everywhere, with all components, I had to learn to become a mechanic, and learn from the net, learn from mechanics around me, and then it used a very iterative kind of process. So at the same time, I was also doing a design thinking course, and I was iterating it again and again and again, and so it was quite a fun exercise. And this is the CMF board for it, the mood board. And the idea was, I wanted the brush bare metal to be seen. And that inspiration came from the DeLorean from the 1980s, from the movie Back to the Future. So, so I used a brushed metal kind of feel on the tank. I stripped off all the paint, and I wanted to use an accent color. So I thought a neon yellow was the right thing to do. And the graphics inspiration came from all these sci-fi movies and sci-fi games. Very sharp, very angled. And I used that kind of language even in the laser cut panels I used for the headlamp and the side covers. And for seat, I wanted to use handcrafted leather, authentic, because the story was also about it was standing on three pillars, that is minimalism, authentic materials, and modern technologies. So I used laser cutting, I used LED lamps in the front. I'd ordered from AliExpress from China, and then I got leather. After a lot of scouting, it's very hard to find leather, by the way. So after a lot of search, after a lot of bad examples of leather, bad samples of leather, I finally found dark tan color, which was very similar to my bag. So so eventually, after the proportions were all decided with a lot of prototyping at home using scissors, foam boards, and printouts, I got it lasered, created vector files, and got it laser cut. And finally gave it to a garage and got it done. So you can see some examples of the tank. So on the top, it's brushed metal, where I sanded the tank with my hand, up to starting from about 200 sandpaper, going up all the way till 2000 very fine sandpaper. On the side it is glossy, and on the top it's brushed metal. Also developed a Bolar badge initially with 3D printing, and then I got it milled in aluminium, and then sanded the top, anodized it. So quite a laborious process. So once a color palette was decided, I also wanted to print some t-shirts for myself and for my friends. So I designed the tag. I also wanted to brand Pune, because Pune is like a small design capital in India. So So it's RX04 Cafe Racer, designed and made in Pune. So yeah, so also did a proper product photography, like what a typical automotive brand would do. And luckily we got published in a Bike XF website on Jan 2nd, 2022. Bike XF is like the global showcase for custom bikes with over 1 million page views per month. So they had an in-depth article on this. And this month, this project got published on Bike XF. Yeah, the May edition, the physical copy of Bike XF. So yeah, I guess I rushed through, but I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, Shashwath, it was a great presentation on the relevance and importance of CMF for the success of a product by ensuring accessibility among the populace. You explained how open and watchful one should be to be a CMF designer, to feel the pulse of the market and respond to it in conjunction with the trend in fashion, architecture, movies, etc. You also proved a point that engaging CMF design in early phase of design assures a holistic product in terms of form, which will feel good to see, touch, and engage with. Yeah, it was a great insightful presentation. Yeah, we can go for a question and answer session.
Sure.
I see Akash and Manisha. Akash, you could go, then Manisha.
Hi, good evening, Shashwath and everyone.
Hi,
yeah, I studied industrial design at IDC, and even back then I was very much interested in CMF, right? But over time, I never understood how do you transition from ID or MVD into becoming a CMF designer, like very specifically. So if you could tell your journey, how that started, or how somebody, a recent graduate like me, how could they transition into that?
See, first of all, the good thing about CMF.
Before that, Shashwath, you could stop presenting, then we can have more spread of people on the. You can stop listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing is, Akash, the good thing about CMF design is it's quite inclusive because, you have a lot of people coming from diverse backgrounds like, graphic design, fashion, textile design, and IT, industrial design. So what companies want to see is your ability to imagine their products in multiple CMF options, whether you are able to catch the trends of the times. So we typically look at 10, 15 industries when we are designing. We are not just looking at cars or motorcycles. We're looking into architecture, fashion, interior design, social trends, geographical trends, global trends. So there's a lot of research which goes on. And the most important thing is one needs to be designing CMF for the relevant time. Like if you look at cars, it is, it takes 3 or 4 years to design a car. So we need to be looking at, it's about pitching into the future. So it's very important to understand how trends work. That is one thing. So it is, if you can get an internship somewhere, even by showing some attempt to do, CMF project, that would be a good start. And the way I did it, I always loved colors and patterns intuitively right from childhood. I, designed the interiors of my house. I used to choose all my mother's saris and my sister's clothes. So I always had that inclination. And so I always did it on the side along with exterior design, interior design. So I just kept developing over a period of time. And because I've spent so many years in the industry, 14, 15 years, I had I've been working with suppliers a lot. And so that's what but don't worry, if you're a fresher, no one's expecting you to have the knowledge of all the processes. You need to have that you need to show that sensitivity to colors and the various possibilities of a product. So, be it conservative, trendy, that kind of options one need to have that ability to show. I hope I answered your question.
Great. Ari, would you have anything to add on how somebody like Akash would want to get into CMF? do you have anything to add more to what Shashwath had shared?
Yeah, it's about building up a portfolio which can exhibit your um, idea about culture and how it influences the current trend in design. So how the color and patterns as Shashwat exhibited. So we need to have an eye for all those details, So we need to apply those things for the products, whatever, if it is white goods or it's automotive. Just see how different textures and patterns can change the feel of the product. So those kind of products and those kind of exhibits can give an idea to the recruiter and other designers so that you can pitch in and then look for an opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hope Akash that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. And thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Manisha, you want to go next?
Sure. First of all, Shashwat, excellent talk and presentation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank
I
you.
personally come from a visual communication background. That was my, that was what I graduated from in IDC way back in '99.
Wow.
And since then I have been within the SaaS application design, that sort of industry. But what I loved and my biggest takeaway with this is that it's amazing, and to me, for visual communication, color is huge, right? It's extremely rewarding. But what was excellent, like my takeaway out of this presentation, was that it's just as rewarding, with the premises of industrial design and automobile design. One thing that you had, you were talking, you said in the beginning was ethnography, right? Like as a methodology to, start your research.
Yeah.
Is that something you began at the beginning, and kind of the artifact that sort of came out of those were mood boards? Like, was there a certain plan that you had? And, whether, I think you mentioned at some point that, there were different people, were there different people who were doing it? I'd love to understand that, because I think it's one of those, underrated aspects of research that so much, so many of us like really miss out on. So.
See, I use a term called informed intuition. As designers, we are already intuitive, but companies can't pitch in just on our intuition. So, I'm actually always swimming in the ocean of, research and trends. So it's very hard for me to pinpoint exactly what, but my first approach is to start researching. I start with benchmark research. I try to physically go speak to, some users, try to observe, go into the environments. Again, if it's possible, it's not possible every time, because if you're designing products for foreign locations, some other countries, it becomes hard. So in cases like that, I talk to the sales guys who have actually traveled to those places, because see, on Google, when you research, you can get a very different kind of vibe, but in reality things might be different. So it's a combination of these things, trend research, actual user interviews, sales, talking to sales guys. So I try to build a model, and I try to work out on that. And then again, it's to and fro. It's never a one person thing. We pitch our ideas to the MD, the CTO, the design head. So it's we all kind of model it. And yeah, it's like that. It's hard to have a one exact process as such.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm glad you said that you actually did some form of generative research that was more data driven in the sense that you actually not just for doing the Google Pinterest type of thing, because yes, you're absolutely right, it's the wrong vibe. It's the vibe that people want us to see versus really what is needed, right, to sort of make that distinction. That's great. I love this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manisha.
Yeah, just wanted to add to what Manisha had asked. Probably there was part of, I read in, part to her question was, let us take your example you showed about the red chilies, which inspired you to decide on the hue of that vehicle. And I mean, how I would want to, supposing there is a project where you have to decide a color of something. Now, how did you decide that, I would spot my research on, let us say, chili as a concept, or somewhere else you said I will look at the designer wear of some designer wear. I mean, how did you decide that my inspiring research would be this? Of course, from there you may draw out your conclusion, but this decision that you make on what you will go with, I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably,
So
I read that as part of her question, so I thought if you
yeah,
can.
yeah. So the thing is, first of all, like for example, most automotive, most whatever cars, bikes, trucks, there's already a fixed pattern of colors which get sold in certain markets. Be it a black, red, or blue. Then the question is, what different can you do with these particular colors? Like for example, we wanted to launch that particular truck in Vietnam. We were going newly to Vietnam, and I had an input from marketing saying that sales and marketing that people love red over there. So that was one input for me. And the next thing I was doing was searching for a new story in red. Again, because we are talking about Indian in essence, global in spirit. So I constantly search, where I can find red. So my eyes are scanning all the time. Either on my visits, I keep taking a lot of photos. I constantly keep documenting them, or when I go to market. So I'm constantly searching the red, be it a sari or a chili, or anything which is red. So I collect red stories, then I collect blue stories, collect white stories. Again, many times, when you're working in an OEM, you don't have the luxury to design the whole palette, especially if it is an already designed product. You have the luxury maybe to do one or two colors because the budget is not such. So if it's a white or black, you already have that in a palette. Typically car companies have a certain, they call it architectural colors, like the blacks, grays, whites. These last for 10 years. Every 10 years they change that whole block. So then you have an opportunity to design these other colors. So it's again to do with strategy and consciously choosing one particular thing and building multiple stories and seeing if the boss also has a resonance with that, and then you pitch it. And again, once you do that, you work with paint suppliers, you try to build your story. So yeah, there is freedom there, creative freedom there too. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. There are two more questions, one after the other. Probably we'll start with Madhu Shravan Murali first, and then following that, we'll have Yogesh Dandekar with this question. Madhu, Shravan?
Yeah, hi. Yeah. Great talk by Shashwath sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Madhu.
Yeah, so I was really intrigued by your design of the cafe racer,
Uh-huh.
and it's a project which, if you take on individually, suddenly everything becomes like multiple amount of work. So how did you establish that, or how much did you spend on it? How much time was spent on it? So if you could talk a little more about the personal satisfaction of design, that
So thing is, it's a 20-year-old bike, and I always wanted to do something. But when you have a job, when you have a 9 to 5 job, it's very hard to take out time. So until and unless I didn't have a bedroom dedicated to it, there's not much progress, because sketching honestly is the easiest part. Research and sketching is the easiest part. It's actually getting on to the physical bike, which takes time, and also set aside a certain budget. And I didn't want to compromise on the quality. I really wanted it to make it amazingly beautiful. So all said and done, I had a Pinterest board to say, look for bike cafe racers from globally, from Bike Exif, Bike India, and generally followed a lot of cafe racer builders from all around the world. So it kind of, you get an understanding of who's doing what is your personal style. So it's very important to understand what your personal style is, instead of trying to kind of impress everyone. So once you understand your personal taste, you start putting things together, start building a mood board, start doing your sketches, rough sketches, proportional sketches. And once that was done, things were a lot more easier. So every day after work, I spent about 2-3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, just after work, I would visit suppliers. On weekends, I would visit supplier. And what made it really easy is WhatsApp. So I could WhatsApp my, the designs, the drawings, the file to the suppliers who would either stitch my seat for me. And finding one learning I had was, when you work in an OEM, you're like the boss for all the suppliers. People will listen to you. But when you're an individual, people are not so excited to, do things for you, because again, it boils down to economics. If somebody has to design even one panel for you, they have to stop their production. There's a loss of time, loss of money, and they hardly earn anything from you. So it is the art of negotiation, the art of collaboration, the art of persuasion. These are the kind of skills you would need to, convince somebody to, do some work for you. So, but it was very rewarding. And I just used anything and everything. I took a local welder. I took my bike there, got the rods cut. I was not scared. I thought I'll just do what it takes. And, things started coming together as per what I wanted. And it was amazing. It's magical now. And on weekends, I ride the bike now. So it's deeply satisfying. So it feels like a burden's gone off my chest. Quite happy.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Great. Yogesh, you want to go next?
Hi, Yogesh.
Hi, Shashwath. Finally, we meet like this within the same city.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I have two things. One is quite impressed with your bike. I think I'll come over and let me ride it once.
Yes, please.
So
yes, please.
I think that actually gave me an idea, and I would probably propose it to Raj, that there are a lot of designers who have this internal cravings, that I should do something for myself. I should build something for myself. And it could be anything, people doing pottery out of their own interest, somebody building his own furniture or chairs. You have built a bike, maybe somebody built his own house, whatever it is. Because recently one of our batchmates, Pradeep, who stays in Bangalore, he built his house. He worked with an architect and had his brief done. So a lot of people have done something out of our own passion, away from that commercial and things. So I think we should collect a lot of such examples and showcase it somewhere. It's beautiful, and the pain that it takes, and I can very much understand what you're going through, but a beautiful work.
Thank you so much.
The question that I actually had was, I think, particularly connected to CMF. And now I work a lot in the public domain in that way. And cars, bikes, and things, cars, bikes, and things are very much connected to probably something that is a personal expression. Yeah, you kind of connect it to your personal identity. They're extension of an identity. So when you design it for a public system, like maybe let's look at a bus, or let's look at a train, or let's look at something that's been shared. As the CMF designer, how would you approach it?
See, I worked at Leyland and Tata, so I know how the ecosystem works. So the thing is, most of the times, the state government is telling you exactly what they want, Like, for example, when we were working for Delhi, Sheila Dikshit's government had told that the stanchions inside the bus, stanchions are those pillars for people outside the bus industry, that has to be green. Now she won't tell which green it is. So, that's the designer in us who should choose a certain kind of green, which is attractive and interesting. So, you have small gaps where you can play. And so again, when it comes to Auto Expo, we have a lot of freedom. Like, for example, in Leyland, the Auto Expos of 2012, I had the opportunity to paint every bus in pearl white, and just the graphics were colorful. So it gives me the freedom to showcase the whole brand in a certain way. Whereas, typically that's not the case. The customer, especially in heavy commercial vehicles, the fleet owner, some Sethji sitting in Gujarat or Rajasthan, is taking the decision, right? So it's a different ball game there. So especially in buses, again, the state government tells, like even when at Tata we were doing a bus, the other bus we had done, the hybrid bus which runs in Bandra Kurla complex, we had proposed a lot of options. Finally, it is the politician who said that I want it in grey and yellow, and now the BKC what's running is grey and yellow. So, we did play with the colors, with certain graphics, but they had a call. But that is where the ultra electric bus, I had complete freedom, because there it was a technology product what Tata was showcasing. So, we had an opportunity to play that color story. So now the same thing is happening with EVs, EV, all the codes are not there. So it's an opportunity of the OEM to tell a certain story. So it becomes tricky. But if the government is open, I think that's where designers can reach there with a color mood board and kind of convince them for the better, saying that, wow, we can tell a fantastic color story. But you should be ready with your option, physical option, with printouts, with materials, saying that, sir, can we do this? Who knows? You can win their heart and let design. Otherwise, they'll do a bad choice. So it's our opportunity with good intention. See, again, yeah. So I start with a good intention, or as it's called, sankalpa in Sanskrit, with the deep caring. I start with that aspect. And many times I'm able to navigate and sell my story. So yeah.
Okay, nice. So we just have to stay true to what we have done, make it and make a good attempt, present it well. Yeah. Finally, leave it to the guy to take it all.
Yes.
Okay. Nice.
But certainly there is an interesting question from Yogesh, in the sense that when you do a decision or do a design decision for products which are bought by individuals versus something which is a public product, which there is no one individual who buys, right? It's a mass transit where I think it's coming from. It's like, how does RTC decide? Okay, this is nobody knows, right? And the designer is going to sell to one committee, which is going to make a decision on behalf of something. But even if the government is open, I think what is very interesting is, as a designer, between a design process, a process that you follow for an individual buyer versus a process that you will follow for a collective, public buy. What is the difference in your approach? That's maybe it's very interesting thing to. I mean, not that we have to discuss this right now, but I think it's a very interesting point you have brought, Yogesh.
Yeah. They're very difficult. I wouldn't say difficult, but they are very different approaches. Because I have come across people where we propose extreme rational designs, and the people who take decisions probably are not even users of the system. So that's the kind of disconnect at times which we face. But very good work, Shashwath. I keep following your work on LinkedIn always.
Thank you. Even your work is fantastic. We should meet, Yogesh. We should collaborate someday.
Yeah. We should soon meet.
Yeah.
Great. I think next is Niju. You want to go ahead? Thanks, Yogesh.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening. Am I audible? I'm actually on my phone.
Yes, you're audible.
Right. So hi, Shashwath, and thank you, moderator, for allowing me to question. I think very lovely presentation, Shashwath. I really enjoyed listening to the way you explained your work. So intuitive and so designerly, actually. Very inspiring, in fact, I would say. So I've been teaching at an ID for many years now, and I am also doing my PhD in CMF right now. I've been teaching color and researching color for quite some time. I'm just sharing the thought with you, and I wanted to sort of throw something out at you and see what you think about it. One of the things I've encountered in my research and work is that people seem to have very limited imagination. If you were to suggest a certain change, which is, let's say, 2 steps ahead or few more steps ahead, I feel that it is met with a lot of resistance. And then there is the whole negotiation of who manufactures something and their sort of constraints that they come with. So what are your thoughts on that? Just sort of, sharing with you what I feel.
With all the experience I've had with big bosses in large companies, what I've realized is, what strategy I use is, first, as designers, we need to understand we are option makers. We need to understand, we are solution makers, we are solution providers. We need to provide multiple options, multiple solutions, and assess what they want. And first listen to them, wherever they are, whatever they are interested. And slowly over a period of time, gain their confidence and then tell, sir, but I have an idea. Can you, what if we do this? So it's very important. So many times what happens, at least with young designers, is, one can tend to become a bit arrogant and say, no, this is the best design. And so we're not listening to the big bosses, because end of the day, it is their decision. They're the leaders who navigate the path. So it's very important to gain their confidence, and they'll start believing in us when we deliver success. It is the hard truth. So the initial times, it is going to be hard. And so that is one thing. And you need to be telling them reason why, if we take this approach, we might get success. So,
And so what role does, let's say, the user play in this situation?
See, so user, again, it's user research. Again, the end customer could be different. The end user could be different. So like, for example, children's product, the parents are the customers. The child is the user, the parent is the customer. So, most products are designed to appeal to the parents, because they are making decisions, buying decisions. So it's a combination. It's a combination of satisfying the user, satisfying the customer. And end of the day, a lot of businesses are designed just to make a lot of money. And many times they're not solving the user's problem, unfortunately. So I think it is our responsibility as parents of the design to cater for that also, go that extra mile and try to convince that. And if possible, show some statistics or show some mood board, show some lifestyle board that this age group guys are really using this kind of products. Yeah.
Thanks. That was a very honest answer.
Thanks.
Maybe one thing to add there is I also curious to know the 2 steps ahead that Niju was just talking about. Is there a way that you kind of get the users to see your design and then kind of see their reaction as a way to make a decision? I mean, for example, these prototypes that you show different colors, and you just get them around to see a sample of people coming and visiting, and then is there a way you are seeing their reaction and then using that as a way to go back to your bosses? Just want to know.
Yeah. So I was working on some graphics and accessories for the Tata Nano when I was in the UK, at the UK studio, and I had proposed many options, and marketing had sent it to some agency. They sent it to customer clinics all around India, some 4 or 5 cities in India. And again, they'd use data analysis. Whichever customer picked one particular color combination the most, that was finally put in the market. So sometimes things like that happen. I've also been to customer clinics where the design is shown, design options are shown, again, in different cities in India, different towns and cities in India. But I don't think every time that's a good approach, especially if you're doing something radical, and if the company has the guts to take that decision, you can, so it's a difficult balance. There's no way to know 100% whether you'll be successful.
That's why we have a job.
It is a hard job.
Zulkar has a question. Please go ahead. Thanks, Niju, for bringing this up.
Thanks.
Hello, sir. So I just wanted to know how much was the expenditure of your cafe recipe?
Oh, yes. I spent around close to 50 to 60,000 rupees in total.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, everything inclusive.
That's too less or too much? I think it was reasonably okay.
I think it's very little. I would have imagined a lot more.
Yeah.
Because I also bought in a lot of materials myself, contacting suppliers directly. I did a lot of research. Yeah. So had I given everything into one guy and said, do everything by yourself, they would have probably charged a lot more. So I had control over a lot of materials myself.
Where did you source the leather from?
I finally bought it on Amazon after a lot of research, scouting in Bombay, Pune, Shivaji Nagar, MG Road, Pimpri, everywhere. I bought a lot of samples, not happy. Finally, I kept searching online, and that thing led me to Amazon finally. So some supplier in Bombay. Yeah.
Any more questions? Probably we have time for just one or two. Maybe one.
Last question. Come on, guys.
I'm gonna just make a comment more, Shashwat, and maybe you can agree or disagree. I think the whole point about influence and getting getting that sort of whether you want to call it executive sponsorship or kind of getting them to be behind this endeavor, right? In my opinion, and over the years, I've felt that allyship has really helped me. Whether that's with my peers, really understanding different folks' perspective, and at some point even standing up to executive leadership that you want to hire me or you have me here for this particular reason, and if this is not what I'm going to be able to deliver, and you gotta pick your battles, but at some point you have to take that stand.
Yeah.
And I think that actually helps, of course it might just fall flat on your face and you'd be like, get out or whatever, but it is what it is.
Yep.
But I have over the years really felt that that's actually helped me, helped leaderships to see that I care, and there's a reason. And to your point, how do we involve whether those are end users or decision makers, like parents and kids? How do you bring them and make them part of the narrative? To me, honestly, like at the beginning of my career, it was just allyship, like building that allyship, building that support within my peer group to influence over time. And now I'm in like a senior leadership role, so it gets easier, but then it also gets trickier over time. But then also at some point, you've got to take that stand. So I don't know if you have anything to add in particular, if you had to have similar battles, or if you have an entirely different perspective.
No, I do agree with that. Again, as you said, it's in the art of dynamic balance. Sometimes it's about choosing your battles. Sometimes if there are certain small things you let go, you don't sweat it out. But if something is really important, if something is you strongly believe in, I think one should speak out. I've done that. I've said no to a MD once, and everyone was shocked. But to cut a long story short, that went on to become like the big blockbuster success of one particular product, and after that they started taking me seriously. Before that, they were like, back of their head, they were like, we have been doing business for 20 years. You can't teach me some new trick, kind of thing. So, but after that episode, once you taste success, then they tend to take you seriously. But I think it's the art of balance, especially the advice for young designers is one needs to be really diplomatic. One needs to be really a very good observer of body language, to really listen to what different stakeholders, the top management is saying, and then give solutions for that. Because if you listen to them, they're going to listen to you. It's a two-way street with them higher than you many a times.
Yeah, so 100%. Read the room.
Great.
Read and observe.
Thanks, Manisha. Ari, you wanted to wrap this session?
It was good, isn't it? Like more than the presentation, the questions triggered some more thoughts on this topic. Yeah, I think it was a great one. Yeah.
Good. So we are dot on time. We are nine few seconds here, and I mean, thanks, Shashwath. This is a very, very exciting topic to listen to, and I know that what is on the surface is just not as simple as it turns out to be. I know people switch brands because the color of their choice was not available. I mean, I did that myself. So it is not a the kind of decision that goes into, you elaborated it so beautifully, and also spoke about the design process, the method that goes into the mind of the designer, and also how it impacts, how you take it to decision making through the support of the stakeholders. So it's not a very simple job, it's very complex. And thanks for exposing us into this world of CMF. Maybe there are many who are aware, but I personally felt it was extremely enlightening to know what goes on here. And of course, you also probably created some fans for your bike, so
Yeah.
we're going to follow you. And I wish you all the best. And
Thank you so much.
Not just for what you do, but also for other creative initiatives and endeavors that you take on. And on behalf of the IDC alumni community, I wish you all the best and thank you profusely for taking your time. And thanks to Ari for
thanks to you as well.
It was great. And let me also tell again that this recording of this session will be made available tomorrow. And we also have sessions coming up from as we keep every week. So I'll keep you posted on what's next. And thanks everyone, and have a great week, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good night and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night,
Please see
everyone.
you online.
Bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Cheers.
Thanks.
I'm on LinkedIn, so if you want to reach out, please reach me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Bye. Good night.